नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम। By His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 20, Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena. We are in the section text 17 to 22, where there is a beautiful Lord's affectionate dealings with Maharaj Prithu. So currently at we text 21. So the previous verse describes about how it was very difficult for the Lord to leave the place and is waiting, unable to leave the place. So we come to text 21. स आदिराजो रचिताञ्जलिर्हरिं विलोकितुं नाशकत् अश्रुलोचनः। न किञ्चनोवाच स बाष्पविक्लवो रुदोपगुह्यामुमधातवस्थितः। Translation.
The original king, Maharaj Prithu, his eyes full of tears and his voice faltering and choked up, could neither see the Lord very distinctly nor speak to address the Lord in any way. He simply embraced the Lord within his heart and remained standing in that way with folded hands. Purport. Just as Krishna is addressed in the Brahma Samhita as Adi Purusha, the original personality, so King Prithu, being an empowered incarnation of the Lord, is referred to in this verse as Adi Raja, the original or ideal king. He was a great devotee and at the same time a great hero who conquered over all undesirable elements in his kingdom. He was so powerful that he was equal in fighting to Indra, the king of heaven. He gave protection to his citizens, keeping them engaged in pious activities and devotion to the Lord. He did not collect a single cent of taxes from the citizens without being able to give them protection from all calamities. The greatest calamity in life is to become godless and therefore sinful. If the state head or king allows the citizens to become sinful by indulging in illicit sensual life, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, then the king is responsible. And he has to suffer the resultant sequence of reactions for the sinful lives of the citizens because he levies taxes on them unnecessarily. These are the principles for a ruling power. And because Maharaj Prithu observed all the principles for a ruling chief, he is referred to here as Adi Raja. Even a responsible king like Maharaj Prithu can become a pure devotee of the first order. We can distinctly see from King Prithu's behavior how he became ecstatic, both externally and internally, in pure devotional service.
Yeah.
Just
So
today,
here's a long purport.
Hare
We'll
Krishna.
divide it into two. The original king, Adi Raja, his eyes full of tears and his voice faltering and choked up. Vilokitum. So, Rachitanjalir. With folded hands, he is offering obeisances to Harihi. Na kinchana vacha na bashpa viklava. That he could neither see the Lord very well because his eyes were veiled up with tears, and therefore he simply embraced the Lord within his heart and stood there with folded hands. A very, very beautiful, very devotional exchange now it is going to be between Maharaj Prathu and the Supreme Lord. How it started? It started with Indra becoming envious of Maharaj Prathu. And how it's going? How it's going is Maharaj Prathu is in deep devotional ecstasy. This is because of the wonderful response that Maharaj Prathu gave to the calamity. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains Lord Krishna is Adi Purusha. Similarly, King Prithu is Adi Raja, the original ideal king. So he was a pure devotee and at the same time a great hero and equal to fighting with Indra. And he was ideal king giving all protection to the citizens. Prabhupada says, the greatest calamity in the life is to become godless and therefore sinful. This is very important. People generally uh, they they are God fearing because either they lack money or artho jigyasur artharthi, those kind of levels. But as soon as there is godlessness, the life becomes extremely sinful. Right. And therefore, the duty of the king or the state of the head is that citizens are protected from the four sinful activities. Otherwise, the king himself has to suffer. And Prithu Maharaj was the ideal king. He protected as a ruling chief. He protected all his citizens, and therefore he is called as Adi Raja. Prabhupada writes, even responsible king like Maharaj Prithu can become a pure devotee of the first order. So it is not that to become a pure devotee, you have to give up the material world or material responsibility. No. Here we can see from the behavior and the character of Maharaj Prithu that he was externally and internally a very highly elevated personality. Externally, he had great competence. Internally, he had great character and devotion. And this is how Maharaj Prithu is considered as Adi Raja. Yeah, please continue.
Just today, we have seen in the newspapers of Bombay that the government is going to repeal its prohibition laws. Ever since Gandhiji's non-cooperation movement, Bombay had been kept dry and has not allowed its citizens to drink. But unfortunately, the citizens are so clever that they have increased illicit distillation of liquor, and although not being sold publicly in shops, liquor is being sold in public laboratories and similar abnormal places. Unable to check such illicit smuggling, the government has decided to manufacture the liquor at cheaper prices so that people can have their supply of intoxication directly from the government instead of purchasing it in public laboratories. The government failed to change the hearts of the citizens from indulging in sinful life. So instead of losing the taxes they collect to inflate the treasury, they have decided to manufacture liquor to supply to the citizens who hanker after it. This kind of government cannot check the resultant actions of sinful life, namely war, pestilence, famine, earthquakes, and similar other disturbances. Nature's law is that as soon as there are discrepancies in regard to the law of God, which are described in Bhagavad Gita as dharmasya glani, or disobedience to the laws of nature or God, at once there will be heavy punishment in the form of sudden outbreaks of war. We have recently experienced a war between India and Pakistan. Within 14 days, there have been immense losses of men and money, and there have been disturbances to the entire world. These are the reactions of sinful life. The Krishna conscious movement is meant to make people pure and perfect. If we become even partially pure, as described in the Bhagavatam, Nasta Prayesva Abhadresu, by development of Krishna consciousness, then lust and greed, the material diseases of the citizens will be reduced. This can be made possibly simply by broadcasting the pure message of Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna consciousness. Big commercial industrial firms have contributed many thousands of rupees to a defense fund that burns the money in the form of gunpowder. But unfortunately, if they are asked to contribute liberally to advance the Krishna conscious movement, they are reluctant. Under the circumstances, the world will periodically suffer from such upsurges and outbreaks of war, which are the consequences of not being Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna.
Further, Srila Prabhupada mentions that just today we have seen the newspaper. So even Bombay was a dry zone. Currently, Gujarat is a dry zone. Bihar was a dry zone. And this was Gandhiji's one of the the basic foundational teachings about liquor, no liquor. But today, Prabhupada, right? Just today we have seen in the newspaper that the Bombay, that is, government is going to repeal the prohibition laws on their citizens. And although the liquor was not allowed, citizens are so clever that they increase the illicit distillation of the liquor, and that led to many other problems. The government said, we only will manufacture liquor, and you drink liquor, we'll have a heavy tax on it, and thus we will inflate our treasury. And this is how the government is encouraging the sinful activities. So externally, maybe thinking it is like discouraging sinful activities, but it is encouraging sinful activities in many different ways. And Prabhupada writes is these things will happen periodically. Now these purports are written at least 60 years ago, right? And we have seen that the Delhi government, the liquor policy, and there are so many scams, uh, true, untrue, perceived, actual, all different types. They are going on. Prabhupada says, but there are nature's law. We may justify whatever we do by our clever brain, but the nature's law is such that such kind of activities, especially these fours, meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit activities, they will lead to great dissatisfaction in the society, and there will be always a quarrel like situation, and there will be wars. And wars, everybody is happy in the war. Industry is happy in the war because they are printing billions of dollars of worth. Prabhupada writes the gunpowder in the form of a gunpowder, like the current war going on India as Iran and US. The day one expense of that war was around 990, so 1 billion USD. So per year, per day, they are spending billions of dollars of taxpayers' money. And this is how Prabhupada says nobody is interested in this. All this is because of lack of Krishna consciousness. And if we can simply make people on a mass scale Krishna conscious, all these things can be avoided, but nobody is interested in this kind of activities. They will spend billions on gunpowder, but the no spending is allowed on the spiritual activities, and therefore the world will periodically suffer these kind of activities for the want of Krishna consciousness. So, that's just fitting as it is in today's situation. Text 22. Text 22. अथावमृज्जा श्रुकलाविलोकयन् अतृप्तदृग्गोचर आह पूरुषम् पदास्पृशन्तं क्षितिमंस उन्नते विन्यस्य हस्ताग्र उरुद्विषः. Translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead stood with his lotus feet almost touching the ground while he rested the front of his hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Maharaj Prithu, wiping the tears from his eyes, tried to look upon the Lord, but it appeared that the king was not fully satisfied by looking at him. Thus, the king offered the following prayers. The significant point in this purport, the significant point in this verse is that the Lord was standing above the ground, almost touching it. The residents of the upper planetary systems, beginning from Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma lives, down to Svargaloka, the heavenly planet of Indra, are so advanced in spiritual life that when they come to visit this or similar other lower planetary systems, they keep their weightlessness. This means that they can stand without touching the ground. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because he lives in one of the planetary systems within this universe, he sometimes plays as if one of the demigods of this universe. When he first appeared before Prithu Maharaj, he was not touching the ground of this earth. But when he was fully satisfied with the behavior and character of Maharaj Prithu, he immediately acted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayana from Vaikuntha. Out of affection for Prithu Maharaj, he touched the earth, but he rested the front of his hand on the raised shoulder of Garuda, his carrier, as if to prevent himself from falling down. Since the Lord is not accustomed to stand on the earthly ground, since the Lord is not accustomed to stand on the earthly ground, these are all symptoms of great affection for Prithu Maharaj. Perceiving his fortunate position, Prithu Maharaj could not fully look upon the Lord due to ecstasy, but still, in faltering voice, he began to offer prayers. Hare Krishna.
So now here, the Supreme Lord, he was almost touching the ground while he rested his front of his hand on the shoulder of Garuda, the enemy of the snakes. Right. Prithu Maharaj, wiping the tears from his eyes, he was not fully satisfied looking at the Supreme Lord, and thus the king began to offer the prayers. And now the next section will be text 23 to 31, prayers of Maharaj Prithu. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the significant point is here is that the Lord was standing above the ground, almost touching it. And now he touched the ground, but Lord is not accustomed to touching the ground, and therefore he was taking help of putting his hand over the shoulder of Garuda and standing in a beautiful posture. Prabhupada writes here that the advanced personalities from the higher planetary systems, they are not accustomed to touching the ground. They maintain their weightlessness. They do not fall under the category of the gravity where this planet inhabitants are very accustomed to. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, but sometimes he behaves like a demigod. But as soon as a pure devotee like Prithu Maharaj comes across him, he immediately takes his own role of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was extremely affectionate to Prithu Maharaj. For Prithu, he touched his feet on the ground. And because he was not accustomed to do so, he took the help of Garuda. And all this shows a great affection towards Prithu Maharaj. Right. Prabhupada writes here, perceiving the fortunate position, Prithu could not fully look upon the Lord due to his ecstasy, but still, in a faltering voice, he began to offer the prayers. So the next part is prayers of Maharaj Prithu, text 23 to 31. Just a minute. So we come to text 23. Prithuruvacha varan vibhotvat varadat ishvara buddha katham prunite gunavikrayatmanam yenarakānām api santi dehinām tāni shakaivalyapate vrunena cha. Translation.
My dear Lord, you are the best of the demigods who can offer benedictions. Why, therefore, should any learned person ask you for benedictions meant for living entities bewildered by the modes of nature? Such benedictions are available automatically, even in the lives of living entities suffering in hellish conditions. My dear Lord, you can certainly bestow merging into your existence, but I do not wish to have such a benediction. Purport. There are different kinds of benedictions according to a person's demands. For karmis, the best benediction is promotion to the higher planetary systems, where the duration of life is very long and the standard of living and happiness is very high. There are others, namely Gyanis and Yogis, who want the benediction of merging into the existence of the Lord. This is called Kaivalya. The Lord is therefore addressed as Kaivalyapati, the master of the Lord of the benedictions known as Kaivalya. But devotees receive a different type of benediction from the Lord. Devotees are anxious neither for the heavenly planets nor for merging into the existence of the Lord. According to devotees, Kaivalya or merging into the existence of the Lord is considered as good as hell. The word Naraka means hell. Similarly, everyone who exists in this material world is called Naraka because this material existence itself is known as a hellish condition of life. Prithu Maharaj, however, expressed that he was interested neither in the benediction desired by the karmis nor that desired by the Gyanis or Yogis. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Prabhu, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, described that Kaivalya is no better than a hellish condition of life. And as for the delights of the heavenly planets, they are factually below the wisps or phantasmagoria. They are not wanted by devotees. Devotees do not even care for the positions held by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor does a devotee desire to become equal with Lord Vishnu. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj made his position very clear.
So now, because the Lord has asked him, please ask for a benediction, Prithu, faltering voice, his eyes veiled up with tears, unable to see the Lord, he is beginning to offer his beautiful prayers. He's saying, my dear Lord, should I really ask for a benediction? Benedictions are generally asked for by those who are bewildered by the three modes of material nature. And therefore, my dear Lord, what benediction I will ask for other than your devotional service? I do not wish to have such benediction as Kaivalya. Tanisha Kaivalyapate Vrune Nacha. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are different kinds of benedictions, and these different kinds of benedictions are according to the person's demands and the modes of material nature. Right. So somebody who is a karmi will ask for material wealth, somebody who is a jnani will ask for merging into the Brahman, somebody who is yogi will ask for the yoga siddhi, so on and so forth. And one of the topmost benediction considered is Kaivalya. But for a devotee, Kaivalya means merging with the Supreme, becoming Brahmalina. This is the typical word for Kaivalya. But for a devotee, when you are a Brahmalin, there is no scope of devotional service, and without active devotional service, life of a devotee will consider his life to be Kaivalyam Narakayate. Right. And Srila Prabhupada quotes here a prayer of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. Kaivalyam Narakayate, Tridishapur Akash Pushpayate. He says that Vidhi Mahendra Adischakitayate. My dear Lord, I am not looking for any position in the material world. Somebody may be enamored with the universe, but such Ananta Koti Brahmandas are there. What position I will aspire for in this material world? I simply want to be servant of your servant in the process of devotional service. So this is the beginning prayer of Maharaj Prithu. Text 24. न कामयेनाथ त्वदप्यहं क्वचित् न यत्र युष्मच्चरणाम्बुजासवः महत्तमन्तार्दयात्मुखच्युतो विदस्त्वकर्णायुत एष मे वरः. Translation.
My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1 million years, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. Purport. In the previous verse, Maharaj Prithu addressed the Lord as Kaivalyapati, the master of the liberation of merging into his existence. This does not mean that he was anxious for Kaivalya liberation. That is made clear in this verse. My dear Lord, I do not want such a benediction. Maharaj Prithu wanted to have 1 million ears to hear glories of lotus feet of the Lord. He specifically mentioned that the glories of the Lord should emanate from the mouths of pure devotees who speak from the cores of their hearts. It is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukamukhad Amruta Drava Samyutam. The nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam became more relishable because it emanated from the mouth of Srila Shukadev Goswami. One might think that these glories of the Lord can be heard from anywhere. from the mouths of either devotees or non-devotees. But here it is specifically mentioned that the glories of the Lord must emanate from the mouths of pure devotees. Sri Sanatan Goswami has strictly prohibited hearing from the mouth of non-devotee. There are many professional reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam who speak the narrations very ornamentally, but pure devotees does not like to hear from them because such glorification of the Lord is simply a vibration of material sound. But when heard from the mouth of pure devotee, glorification of the Lord is immediately effective. The word satam prasangan mama virya samvidaha, Bhagavatam 3.25.25 mean the glorification of the Lord is potent when uttered from the mouth of pure devotee. The Lord has innumerable devotees all over the universe, and they have been glorifying the Lord since time immemorial and for an unlimited time. But still they cannot completely finish enumerating the glories of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj therefore wanted innumerable ears, as Rupa Goswami also desired to have millions of ears and millions of tongues to chant and hear glorification of the Lord. In other words, if our ears are always engaged in hearing the glorification of the Lord, there will be no scope for hearing the Mayavad philosophy, which is doomed to spiritual progress. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that if anyone hears from the Mayavad philosopher preaching about the activities of the Lord, even if it is a description from the Vedic literature, he is ultimately doomed. By hearing such Mayavad philosophy, one cannot come to the destination of spiritual perfection of life.
Now Maharaj Prithu prays, "O my dear master, O Kaivalyapati, I want a benediction of having millions of years, so that the nectarine beverage of the pastimes of your own pastimes, I am able to hear them, the glories of the Lord, when they are emanated from the mouths of pure devotees." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that although Maharaj Prithu started his prayer addressing the Supreme Lord as Kaivalyapati, master of the liberation, but he is not looking for liberation, and that is very clear in this verse. So, although the Lord can award liberation, but in the liberation, with typically this Brahmaleen condition, there is no devotional service, and there is nothing like Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. This is simply the existence without any misery. It's a 0-0 existence. There is no misery, but there is no positive happiness of devotional service. And Prithu Maharaj is not looking for this kind of benediction. He says, instead of that, my dear Lord, please award me millions of years. Because with 2 years, how much I can hear your katha? Your name is Ananta, your pastimes are unlimited, your devotees are unlimited. Unlimited devotees are glorifying you for a time unlimited, and still your pastimes are not over. And that means I want to have so many things to hear. I mean, there is so much to hear about the Supreme Lord. We have this website called as ISKCON Desiratory, and they have a very beautiful title there. They say, even one lifetime will not be sufficient for you if you decide to hear about what we have in store for you, right? So there are thousands of lectures, thousands of seminars, thousands of japa talks, thousands. One entire lifetime is not enough if we decide to hear. And therefore Maharaj Prithu says, I want millions of years. Now, does it mean hearing from anybody and everybody? No. Prabhupada says, Shuka Mukhad Amruta Drava Samyutam. Although Amruta is there of Bhagavatam, but it has to come from Shuka Mukhad, or a pure devotee of the Lord. Otherwise, what happens is, if it is coming from somebody who is a Mayavadi, typically Bhagavata Jnana Yagya, this is a typical sign of a Mayavadi conducting Bhagavat Saptah. So, they will have their own concoctions, and they will have their own, the whimsical ideas about the service of the Supreme Lord. And this kind of activities will actually destroy our devotional service, although we may think. Prabhupada says they may speak very ornamentally. I was, in a way, some 30 years back, I remember going to one such thing, And the fellow there was very famous Vidyavachaspati. And this Vidyavachaspati, he gave a challenge to people. He said that tomorrow you come to my class and I challenge you if you cannot cry. I will speak this Katha, Rama Prasanga, in such a way that 20,000 people will simultaneously cry, and this is my challenge. So Prabhupada says, this kind of ornamental speaking may be good for evoking some emotions, but early to cry, early to dry. Right? People will cry in the katha, will go home, switch on the television, and continue with the sense gratification. And therefore, the katha has to be heard from the bona fide devotee of the Lord. Further, Srila Prabhupada says, describes that the Lord has millions of names, and therefore Prithu Maharaj is desiring for millions of years to hear the glories of the Lord. Similarly, Rupa Goswami also says that beautiful verse, Tunde Tandavali, that I want to have, my dear Lord, this Krishneti Varnadvayam, these two words, Krishna, they are so nectarine that how much one tongue can chant and how much 2 ears can hear. I want to have millions of tongues and millions of ears to chant and hear your holy names. But again, all this chanting and hearing should be from the lips of a pure devotee, as it is instructed by Sanatana Goswami. With a Mayavad tinge, the devotional inclination of a jiva will be completely dried up. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns, Mayavad bhashya shunile haya sarvanash. That even a person in Vaikuntha will fall away if he hears the Mayavad. This is the, Atishayokti Alankar. That this is how one should critically avoid hearing of the Mayavad philosophy. So, and especially when devotees, they are in different projects. Currently, many devotees are part of this Hindu Sammelan activities, and we should be part of it. Of course, we cannot be cut off from the society. At the same time, we should not be covered over by the Mayavad philosophy. It is very important, and therefore, this is the warning of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Shri the Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.